What's going on, guys? James Banks back with another interview, continuing the online madness that is everything we've got going on here throughout esports, throughout the world, good old Corona and all that jazz. But I've got none other than the in-game leader for G2Esports, Nexa, with me. And first of all, mate, just how are you doing? How are you getting on with everything?
I'm doing good. It's difficult, but we're all at the same spot and we're all gotta get through it together.
Now, what's the situation going down in Serbia? Because obviously every country's got a different way of dealing with it. Some countries have gone full lockdown, others not so much. So, how's it for you?
Yeah, it's definitely the same. It's a full lockdown. No one in and out of the country. The stores are only open till 3 p.m. and no one is allowed on the streets after 5 p.m. and until 5 a.m. the day after. So it's basically like total lockdown.
Oh wow! And how quick did that happen from when you got back from Katowice to the lockdown taking place?
About a week, like
Oof.
instantly as soon as we came back. First cases started showing up in Serbia around Belgrade, I think, and since then, the president and basically everyone in the government were taking these like precautions and extreme measures to try to prevent what's happening, like in Germany, U.S., Italy, wherever else, to stop it from happening in Serbia as well.
Bloody hell, crazy times. Well, at least you made it back, mate. At least you made it back. Now I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
at least they let me back.
yeah, yeah. Especially you, right? Your passport's gonna have enough
Yeah.
stamps and everything else in it from traveling. They might look at you in a different light than some of us. Um, but I want to talk about Katowice real quick because you guys had that amazing run, right? That you managed a second place in the end, and I know that second place probably feels awful to you guys in the fashion it went down. But one thing that I don't think enough credit came you guys' way was you had to qualify for this. It wasn't like you were an invited team or anything. You had some epic run the whole way through. So now you've had some time to let it all sink in and think about it. How does it feel? Because yes, Navi was so dominant in that grand final, but like I know after seeing your faces after the game, it was obviously very disappointing. But after reviewing, after checking it all out, what did you make of it?
Well, at the end, the game against Navi, we just didn't show up in like any aspect of the game. I don't know what it was. Maybe it just wasn't our day, and they were playing really good. So they smashed us. There is no other words I can use. It is what it is. But overall, during the whole tournament and even qualifying from the close qualifier, I think we did an amazing job. I think we are getting our groove. We are starting to play together as a team properly. Everyone is finally like feeling comfortable in their roles, and we are just pushing forward. And we had a little bit more time to practice online, and I think we're just like by time getting better and better.
And this is the thing, right? A lot of people wrote you guys off as a team due to having the French players switch to speaking English, mixing up, not being an all speaking French lineup anymore, bringing you and Hunter in, and yet you guys have continued to show the damage you can do. The improvements are continuing to be made. So I guess my next question to you was kind of how are you feeling overall as like the improvements and the journey you guys have gone through? Because from the outside, it's like looking really strong, and the language barrier seems to be maybe kind of non-existent now.
Well, there still is a little bit issues with the communication, but overall, I think for me personally, I thought we would need a little bit more time to
Mm.
get like in sync to get things rolling. But I guess after losing at Summit and then winning the Malta Championship after, just something clicked like during that tournament, and ever since then we've been. I don't know. It felt like we were all on the same page all the time, and even though the communication still isn't at the top level, we know that's something we have to work on and that we can improve definitely for sure, like a lot. Something just clicked, and there are these moments where we don't need communication. We kind of feel each other, we know
Mm.
how the other person wants to play. So even without the greatest communication in the world, we are still always like in sync, and I think that's why we are playing good, we are trading good, we are doing like we are making all the right decisions basically, even though we don't have this like tier one communication.
Now I'm going to ask you a question I asked Carrigan because he had a good answer for me when I spoke to him about like having the mixed nationalities, having communication, and maybe not be as good as say like an example of Astralis who were communicating in Danish the whole time. He said that like okay, it's never going to be perfect, but you can definitely make it work with systems, with different words and how you play it out. So how does it work in the G2 system? Do you have maybe singular words for things? Do you do a lot of prep beforehand to make sure like the strats and the call outs are maybe refined a little bit more than a normal full one language speaking team?
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of it, and we have this as well. And the guys, the French guys, even when they were full French, they also had
Mm.
this as well, like trying to
Okay.
keep the communication to like a minimum where like you have some set reactions already planned before and you just need one word to do it. Like they have this one thing, we call it bambolero, and basically on every map we play, when you use this one word, it means that like on city side, you put all your numbers and you try to sandwich the attack. Like if they would split B on us two, you would say bambolero. That means the guys from B go outside window door and the guys from city push at the same time, and we try to like sandwich the middle attack, if you get my point.
Yeah, no,
So
no,
there
I'm
are
with you.
a lot of things like this that don't require us to talk a lot. We're just like one word and we're all instantly in sync. We're all on the same page, and it works really good.
And do you ever maybe get some wires crossed, like with you as an in-game leader and going into like those mid-round calls when it gets a bit scrappy? Does it ever get to a point where you have to kind of settle things down? Because we often see Malik right in the background when your timeout's called, and it's almost like you can kind of obviously we can't hear him. I'm trying to guess this, but you can kind of see him like, okay, let's cool things down. Let's bring the tempo down a little bit. Is that something that's very needed?
Yeah, because like my playstyle, how I like to call, I like to like micromanage
Mm,
everything and be into detail, and it is difficult for guys that like especially Jax and maybe even Amanek sometimes. It's hard for them to catch everything I'm saying because like you only get 20 seconds at freeze time, and even when the round is live, I like tend to talk super fast, so
yeah.
sometimes they cannot catch everything. So sometimes we just gotta cool things down and maybe like take a more simpler approach to the game, do just like simple things instead of trying to like basically just me trying to overcomplicate and play some like 500 IQ mind games. We just like yeah, reset it and we stick to our strengths and we just play the simple things.
And honestly, do you think it maybe at all limits you in some ways with your calling in that sense, or are you feeling comfortable that you've kind of found the solution or finding the solution the way around it?
It kind of works both ways. Sometimes I feel like I have something really good at in my head. I know it's
Mm,
gonna work, but I cannot call it because if people don't understand it well, then obviously it's not gonna work.
yeah.
But at the other end, it kind of takes off the pressure from me when I know that I can just say like two, three simple words and then focus on my fragging, and everyone will know what they need to do. Even though the strat isn't like perfect or whatever, if we are sticking together, if we are trading good, it's gonna work.
And for you, right, as an in-game leader, you're a leader that leads from the front, right? You have some of these games where you have amazing scorelines, and I know it's not all about stats in that sense, but you really will be the man to put yourself further forward. Do you think that's like a thing that's now needed in CS? Because we've had it before where many in-game leaders just they're an in-game leader, but they're almost like a hindrance to the team in terms of ability. But you certainly don't seem to have that problem.
Well, we saw it work both ways, right? Like there are teams that the players in the team work really well in like full structured, like Mad Lions is a perfect example, even though
Mm.
I don't know why they replaced Handen. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, another
Um,
another Ents move.
yeah, exactly. Like there are some players and teams that can perform and get to the top level just by having a really good structure and good protocols, but also there are teams like we were in Valiance and Crazy, that thrive on individual skill, that
Mm.
are like good at creating chaos and that excel in this. And we also got to I would say the same level Mad Lions were before they removed Hunden. So it kind of works both ways. But having a fragging in-game leader, someone who can put up numbers, I think at the end is a little bit more valuable, seeing as like you have the coach who can actually do the preparation and everything, like from the shadows, and make sure that all of the other players are prepared to handle whatever comes their
Mm.
way, and know how to react in certain situations. So having like five people who can frag out is actually really good.
And that's the thing with you guys, right? You literally do have five people that can frag out at the highest level at any given time, no matter what teams you're facing in the world. Like you just look at the run you had at Katowice and the teams you took out. Is there ever a point where you feel like, okay, we can really kind of mix things up here with what players can do what? Obviously, I know people have their roles in the individual positions, but it seems at times like if Hunter was popping off, then you could kind of let him have a bit more freedom. If Kenny's having one of those incredible games, you can kind of let him do his own thing. Is that how you kind of style it out sometimes?
Yes, it's definitely my style. Like I look around my players and I see who is having a good day and who is having a bad day, right?
Mm,
And the people who are having a bad day, I make sure that they still like contribute to the team, to the game, even though they are not maybe like fragging well, they can still like talk and help each other in different ways. And if I see that someone is actually having an insane game, like popping off, I would actually push him to go further. Like I would tell him to like go for duels, take duels. Like I would tell Kenny, go search alone, I trust you. And then he would basically go with you up and just kill three people
mm.
just like that, you know. And there is definitely that it is something that I do. I put a lot of trust in my players, and I think that's why like I trust them and they trust me with my calls, and that's why you would when we play, for me it feels like we don't hesitate in what we do. We are like super clean. We trust each other, and that's why we are beating teams right now.
And in terms of Kenny, right, because he's had a huge change around. I know he's been working a lot with Malik on the personal side of things. I spoke to him in an interview about that. I know that he's really wanting to focus on bringing back his A game, but under you, he's really thriving. It's like we're seeing the old Kenny S come back. What do you kind of put that down to? Because like it's really a huge difference between Kenny before you and Hunter came along to Kenny on this G2 roster.
I don't know how like he was before me and Hunter came into the team, like mentally and
Mm,
individually, or what they were doing with Shocks and Lucky. But since I came to the team, I know that he's been putting like a lot of hours into the game and an effort, like trying to find certain positions, peaks, like right eye peaks, and the corners he can hold and whatever. And it's been rewarding for him for sure. And I feel like he's got this like spark
yeah.
back into him where he wants to be the best in the world again, and it's like a driving force for him, and that's why he is putting all this effort, and that's why he's playing so good.
And how did it feel for you guys when you saw you'd made it onto number three on the HLTV rankings for the world rankings there? Because that must have been quite an achievement for you guys to be jumped up so early on when a lot of people, analysts, fans kind of looked at the roster and thought, oh, okay, this is going to take some time to make it work.
Even though we are in the third spot now, it feels amazing. I don't know if it's deserved or not, right? We just had one good event at Katowice, and maybe you can count Blast as well, but it was a group stage at the end. I think we are at the third place because there aren't really many events being played, and the other teams are having like losing points basically because of the decay
Hmm.
due to events. So I don't know if it's like realistic, but I will for sure like being on the third place if it's realistic, but I would for sure put us in the top five like any day of the week.
Nice honesty, nice honesty. Now, heading towards EPL now, you guys have obviously had a bit of time off since Katowice. Did you take much of like a break, chill time before you started practice again? And when did you start
Uh,
practicing?
we just had I think the travel day where we came home off, and then the day after off, and then we just started practicing, and we've been practicing nonstop till yesterday.
Oh wow! And what's your practice schedule look like? How many days are you doing? Kind of what kind of hours and stuff? Because I know every
Dude,
team's different.
uh, well, yeah, it differs from every team, but we got a lot of theory and like talking about the game and maps. About 2 hours per day of this, and then we play 4 to 6 maps depending on the day. Sometimes we have like a competitive day where we would only focus on playing a lot of maps, and sometimes we have days where we would more focus on like theory and trying to find out like new tricks and things that we can use and like strats basically. um, but overall, we practice 5 days a week, and the practice time is like between like 10 a.m. till 7, 8 p.m. You know.
Okay, okay. Now, online side of things, obviously with VPL going away from LAN, online's not been a problem for you guys in terms of like the qualifiers and that side of things. But do you guys really care whether it's online and offline? Do you have a preference?
Well, right now after being in G2, the preference is definitely on land, but for me and Hunter, the last 2 years or three, you could even say, were basically online life, like 300 games per year
Yeah.
online. So I feel like we will feel right back at home, But I don't know for the others and the other teams as well. I think you could see that, like for example, Navi when they played their first two matches online in about like what 2 3 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
You could see that they were just not used to it, and it's so different when you play online because everyone is like full of confidence. They're doing things that they will not and they would not do on LAN, and it's what makes so many like upsets. And you saw teams like favorites just like getting destroyed by teams they were not like on LAN. It probably would never happen, but because it's this like online environment and everyone is full of confidence, and they are just like playing from home in their comfort zone,
Mm.
like they do on practice every day. Nothing has changed, so they feel really like good and comfortable, and they are able to put up numbers, which would be very different online. So this aspect is something that also we in G2 and even FaZe and Mouse should be scared of, because the teams we have in our group are
Oh
actually some
yes.
teams that actually played some online CS, and they play it in general, so they would like they know how to play from home. That's it.
And in terms of the online side of things, because I was speaking to some players and they're very much like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's online or offline. And then like what you were just saying there is kind of how I had my thought process of, well, some teams just perform better in a LAN environment. Do you think that it's an excuse though of saying like, oh, it's online when say you're still practicing online? Maybe you can explain the differences to me because I was a player god over 10 years ago, so if most of our games were online back then, it was a long time ago. So I'd love to get your thoughts on it, mate.
It's definitely not an excuse. Like if you
Mm,
lose a game, you lost a game. There, like whatever excuses you give it, it's not good. It's not good enough.
okay.
As like for I don't know like about the difference between it.
Mm,
Even though you practice online from home, it's like when you travel to LAN and you go to the practice area there, you go to the group stage area where you play the games. It's usually the same at every event. So and in like just playing out LAN, the game feels so much better, so much like smooth. And now I saw a lot of the teams complain about the ping issues, playing
yeah.
from like different locations and whatever. There are so many factors online that affect the game that you do not have online. So maybe that's like one thing that can be used and as an excuse. But overall, if you are a better team, you should win at the end. That's it. Like that.
Hmm.
That's what I think.
See, I always get these honest answers out of you. That's why I like asking you these kind of questions because you don't mix your words with it, mate. Now, in terms of the teams you've got in your group, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on the teams you have there, like Tailu, FaZe, OG, VP, Mouse Sports, especially considering this is a group that has four international teams, which is kind of crazy compared to the other
Yeah.
groups we had in here.
But the group is I don't know actually what to think of the group. Like Mousesports and FaZe, I'm sure they'll do good. I'm confident about us as well.
Hmm.
For me, I don't see Tyloo as that big of a threat. Especially now after watching their game against FaZe, but who knows? Anything can happen. OG, they've looked good at Blast, but ever since Blast, they were like shaky overall. Mousesports, I think they're gonna do really good. I know they've been putting in the work, and I'm like so sure about them, like doing really good, not just like at the group stage, but overall in the next however many months online. I think they will do really good. And Virtus Pro, I don't know what to think of them. Like they had their ups and downs, and I have no idea what to think of them actually.
Because Dren's now in game leading as well, so they've
Yeah,
changed that
yeah,
up.
yeah, exactly.
And
And
kind of you don't know what you're going to see from him really. And I see that as it could be like
also,
a potential huge upset or maybe just devastating for
yeah,
them.
but also knowing that they play, I don't know if they are boot camping somewhere or not, but knowing they are like around like Kazakhstan, Russia,
Yeah.
that area, they will maybe have some like ping problems playing on whichever servers we play at the end, because I think
Mm.
all of the other teams are somewhere in EU, like boot camping or playing at home, like all around EU.
How is that side of things
Who
for
knows?
you? Do you get any issues with ping to different servers, or it's pretty good?
For me, everything is good, but for example, for Hunter, I know he has some issues with like loss and
Mm,
hyping on some of the servers like Germany or Netherlands, something like that.
okay.
Sometimes issues, yeah. So we will try to get that sorted before the games anyway.
Now, the obvious one for me is seeing you guys, FaZe and Mouse Sports, make it out of the group. But there is huge potential for upsets, like I mentioned before. If you were to see upsets to come out, what team would you think would be the one to be caught off guard?
I don't want to say it, but I kind of feel like it will be us.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Why is that?
because we had this tendency to like lose to teams we shouldn't lose to, like just because of our past and
Mm,
history since me and Hunter joined. Like we did flop some games against teams we shouldn't. So yeah, that's something we need to watch out for.
well,
And I kind of feel like maybe FaZe will drop the ball in one of these games, but they'll go through the group stage anyway.
Well, fingers crossed you don't get upset by any of them. Now,
Yeah.
Tyloo, they've been over in Europe for quite a while since after Malta, I believe, end of last year. They had an office put here in Ukraine. So I'm wondering, do you have much more information on them? Because the thing they've always been able to do is kind of maybe upset in a best of one, where we don't have that problem. It's all best of threes. But for me, that's the only big difference in them is that they've had more time over here in Europe. So I'm wondering if you guys have any extra insight on them this time around.
I don't think we actually have anything. We practiced them a few times, and to me, it seems they're like the team that they always were. They have this upset potential, but at the end, they cannot get over the line somehow. Like they lost their best player. I think Zeta, who joined them, has
Yeah.
like really big shoes to fill. So far, I didn't really see him like perform at a level that P and Ted could, but like maybe he just needed more time to integrate in the team and more practice. But from what I was watching against FaZe, like they still look really messy. They're like all over the place, basically the same as they were before. We just like a little bit less of fire.
Okay, okay. And the mouse sports game, right? But your final game of the league, you had obviously the crazy CS Summit game that you want to forget. Then you beat them in Katowice. Is there a bit of a rivalry brewing in that sense? That would that win feel better than maybe some of the others?
No, I think the best win I would like to get is the one against FaZe. Yeah, but they're one of
Obvious
the teams
reasons. Yep.
we didn't no, they're just like one of the teams that we didn't get to play in like
Oh,
Blast
okay.
or Katowice. I would just like to square off against them since we have a chance here at the group stage. So I would just like to see how we compare against them in general.
And do you have an idea of how you might match up against them going into it, like in terms of map pool and what you guys can offer?
I don't know. For me, it feels like a 50-50. I think right now they're ranked 7, but for me, they are top 5 team in the world. Like they've been on the basically they did exactly what we did, and the only loss they had is to Navi, just like us
Yeah.
in the whole like 2020. I think we're up there like at the same level, and it's just gonna be like who can punch harder between us. It's not gonna be like some mind games or whatever. We just see who shows up individually and who can carry the game.
Oh, well, I guess I'll be looking forward to seeing how that one will go down then, mate. Well, thank you very much for all your time, then, Nexa. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Anything,
Anytime.
anything else you want to say? Any final words?
Yeah, I just wanna tell to everyone to stay.
Stay at home. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
stay at home and enjoy the upcoming CS.
Oh yes, that's the benefit, right? At least if we're stuck in quarantine, we're gamers.
Yeah,
We've been bored ready for this. We can watch all the games and enjoy everything else that's coming out. Well, thank you very much, mate, and thank you to G2 for giving me your time across the board on this. There are plenty more interviews coming on the YouTube channel, guys. So make sure you hit subscribe. We're not even done. We're only halfway through this EPL season, so lots more to come. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Stay at home, like Nexa said, and I'll see you on the next video.